Hello and welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic. The Kitchen Table series returns, MTG Burgeoning's longest running content series, and today we're going to examine deck tech number 56, a little build I like to call Gruul Tramply. What's up, MTG BC, baby? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. The Kitchen Table series returns. We are up to deck tech number 56. And do we have a smashing deck to talk about today? Ha ha ha. Pun intended. We're going to look at a nice Gruul Stompy deck. All right, so here we go. As is generally customary during the Kitchen Table series, we are going to begin with the mana base, and we are playing green-red, so we got to make sure that we bring the mana, and we bring it in bunches. So we're going to start with 8 basic mountains. We're going to start with 8 basic forests. We're going to top that off with 4 of the Gruul Checklands, the Rootbound Crag. These bad boys are going to come into play untapped as long as we control a mountain or forest. And as you see here, we got 16 of those babies already in the deck. So playing a Rootbound Crag untapped should not be a problem. So we're rolling with 20 lands as the mana base. Oh, but that's not all. We are going to throw in some mana rocks because, well, we got some big ones to cast, and we want to cast them quickly. We're at the kitchen table, so of course, there's our Soul Ring. But like I said, we got big ones to cast, so we're going to throw in a Mana Vault as well. For anyone that's not familiar with Mana Vault, it's going to come down as a CMC of 1. We can tap this for 3 colorless mana, but it does not untap during our untap step unless we pay 4 mana to do so, an ability we can only do during our upkeep. If this is tapped, it will deal 1 point of damage to us during our upkeep. So we're going to use it to cast a big and early, and then maybe we'll get around to untapping it if we need to. And closing out the mana base, we're going to have a full playset of the Gruul Signet. There it is, a mana value of 2. Tap 1, turn it sideways, gives us a red, gives us a green, helps us to ramp up. So that's 20 lands, and that's 6 mana rocks for 26 total mana-producing permanents. And there we have it. The mana base has been constructed. Now, let's introduce those tramply creatures of this Gruul Tramply deck. We are going to go right to a 3-drop. That's right, but don't worry. Like I said, we got lots to talk about in this deck. All right, so 3-drop, we're going to start with Warden of the Unchained. It's a 4/4 trampler for a CMC of 3, which is already off the charts. However, it does come with a slight drawback. It says it cannot attack unless we control another creature with power 4 or greater. And I have news for you, members of the MTG BC, a little bit of a spoiler. Every creature in this deck can have a power of 4. So Warden of the Unchained Warden of the Chained, not the Unchained. Unchained is what it already is. It's going to be able to attack frequently and often. 4 copies of Warden of the Chained. Staying with our 3-drop, we're going to talk about a wonderful Gruul creature. There it is, the Gruul Spellbreaker. It's a 3/3 with trample, but it has the Riot mechanic. So that means it's going to come down with our choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. More often than not, we're going to slap the +1/+1 counter on this creature because we're going to have plenty of other haste enablers in the deck. As long as it's our turn, we and Gruul Spellbreaker both have hexproof. So as long as we can get this bad boy down into play, our opponents are not going to be able to target it with removal during our turn. 4 copies of Gruul Spellbreaker. All right, we're going to graduate from the 3-drops and move into our 4-drops. The first play set of 4-drop creatures that we're going to talk about is the Gore Clan Rampager. 2 red and a green for a 4/4 trampler. That's all we have here. However, it does have the Blood Rush mechanic, which means we can tap a red and a green, We can discard this creature and target attacking creature we control gets plus... I'm sorry, it's not even we control. It's just target attacking creature. Gets +4/+4 and gains trample until end of turn. So we can buff one of our attackers with an additional +4/+4. Or politically, or maybe on an ambush like for our other opponents, if one of our opponents is attacking another one, we can slightly buff up one of their creatures to deal some additional combat damage. More often than not, however, we're going to use this for our own dudes. 4 copies of Gore Clan Rampager. All right, another 4-drop as we move to the creature total of 16. We're going to play with a full playset of Proud Wildbonder. It is a 4/3 trampler for 2 and any combination of 2 Gruul hybrid mana. And it has a fantastic ability that reads, creatures you control with trample you may have this creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. This brings back memories of Thorn Elemental and Rocks, which are creatures that could attack and have the combat damage dealt directly to the player as though it weren't blocked. And of course, because this is a Gruul Tramply deck, every single creature in the deck has trample, so we can definitely swing in and have that damage dealt straight to the faces of all of our opponents. All thanks to the Proud Wildbonder. 4 copies, just because we can't play with 16. All right, and the last of our creature spells for this deck, we have a full playset, and we're again graduating up to CMC 5, and this bad boy is really going to make the deck that much stronger. We have a full playset of the Quartzwood Crasher, 2 red and a green for a 6/6 trampler. That by itself, boy, does that offer some amazing statistics. However, the wall of text underneath the keyword mechanic of trample, that makes this deck so much better. Whenever one or more creatures we control with trample deal combat damage to a player, we create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. Again, since all creatures in this deck have trample, all we have to do is get this bad boy down and just watch the dinosaur beast creatures get created. 4 copies of such an underrated creature in the Gruul guild of Quartzwood Crasher. All right, so those are our creature spells. Now let's talk about some spells that are going to help protect and enhance these Gruul beasties. The first spell we're going to talk about is Rhythm of the Wild. That's easy for me to say, folks. 1 red and a green for an enchantment that reads, creature spells we control can't be countered. Like I said, we need to protect our biggins when we cast them, and we need to protect them when they're on the battlefield. So non-token creatures we control will have Riot thanks to an additional ability from Rhythm of the Wild. And to review, Riot means they enter with our choice of a +1/+1 counter, or haste. More often than not, with Rhythm of the Wild on the battlefield and under our control, we're going to elect our biggins to come down with haste, because who doesn't want to attack with a huge, hasty, trampling creature? 3 copies of Rhythm of the Wild. All right, and this is Rhythm of the Wild Light. We have a full play set of Fires of Yavimaya. Again, 1 red and a green. Creatures we control have haste, so there's no riot here. We just give all of our dudes haste. So if we're fortunate enough to have a copy of Fires of Yavimaya and Rhythm of the Wild on the battlefield and under our control, then we should most likely select +1/+1 counters for the riot abilities. We can also sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya to give target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. A nice little bonus to get through with those last couple points of lethal tramply damage. 4 copies of Fires of Yavimaya. All right, that leaves us with 8 cards left in the deck, and these 8 cards, 2 play sets each of 2 spells, and the synergy together is going to make this deck really, really powerful. So let's first talk about the 1A, and then we'll talk about the 1B. The first is we're going to talk about Crashing Footfalls. It is a sorcery with Suspend 4, so this has a 0 mana cost. There is no mana cost for the spell. If we want to suspend it, it's going to cost us 1 green. We're going to exile it with 4 time counters. And at the beginning of our upkeep, we're going to remove one of those time counters, and when the last one is removed, we cast it without paying its mana cost. And once we do cast it, we create 2 4/4 green Rhino creature tokens with Trample. So a couple things about this spell. This is not going to trigger our Riot ability with respect to Rhythm of the Wild, because that is an ability that only serves non-token creatures. However, Fires of Yavimaya will give those Rhino creatures haste to go along with those trampling, with those 2 trampling beasties. So as long as we can get a Fires of Yavimaya out there, we can attack as soon as these 2 creature tokens hit our battlefield. That's 4 copies of Crashing Footfalls. However, even if we cast this on turn 1, we still need to wait 4 turns for it to come into play. 4 long turns for 2 4/4 green rhinos to come into play, and lots of time for our opponents to prepare. Well, we're Gruul. We don't have patience for that. We can't tolerate waiting. So although we are going to include 4 copies of Crashing Footfalls, we're going to include a full play set of a spell that can get this into play much, much sooner. And that's going to be Electro Dominance. X in double red as an instant. This deals X damage to any target, and we may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from our from our hand without paying its mana cost. So how this is going to link up with Crashing Footfalls is minimally, and I'm only going to say as minimally, we can tap 2 red and 0 for X. We can cast Electro Dominance to do 0 points of damage to any target, and then we can cast the Crashing Footfalls because, of course, 0 is in the mana cost. And right then and there, we create 2 green Rhino creature tokens. I'm sorry, I keep saying green. 2 4/4, maybe they are double green. 2 4/4 green Rhino creature tokens with Trample. So this is a fantastic end of opponent's turn 2 play. Tap 2 red, use 0 into X, cast the Crashing Footfalls, put 2 rhinos into play at the end of our opponent's turn, untap, and then we're just going to let the beatdown commence. And of course, that's not the only way in which we can use Electro Dominance. We can use it in the mid to late game, of course, to finish off some additional opponents with some direct damage to go with our Tramply combat damage, all the while casting spells from our hand without paying their mana cost. 4 copies of Electro Dominance to pair primarily with Crashing Footfalls, but also to be used to help finish the game. And there we have it, MTG BC, deck tech number 56, Gruul Tramply. Let me know what you think about this build in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.